tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 11th, and today is World Sight Day, National Coming Out Day, National Sausage Pizza Day, and General Pulaski Memorial Day. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially on YouTube, to us, as well as on all of your social media platforms. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us in Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a brief comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, let's pay a quick bill so we can get right back to the news.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Kicking us off today, that's right. It is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte. You can find him quite often just babysitting his baby daughter right now, simply because he has injured himself and he's home doing daycare all week. So you're not going to find him at any TEDx conventions, but you know what? You can find him. That's right. That's right. You can find him practicing for football, just tossing the ball around, sitting with his one leg up, because he was backpedaling so hard on safe banking that he tripped over CRT and pulled his Achilles tendon. That's right. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
Oh, man, Jason. National Sausage Pizza Day. Is that like, the glizzy day for pizza lovers?
I mean, it is National Coming Out Day. Who knows? It very possibly could be.
Italian glizzy.
Ooh, Italo-glizzy. I like the sound of that. Thank you for that illustrious introduction, Jason Beck, and thank you everybody else out there watching, listening, and consuming the only news that matters in the cannabis industry. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad in the street. My story today is from Nina Steenak. Sorry, I butchered your name. From Benzinga. Cannabis can cause a permanent drop in intelligence. Claims protecting South Dakota kids railing against legalization. South Dakota, the Mount Rushmore state. No, really, that's the state nickname. In just a month, South Dakotans will be voting on ballot initiative Measure 27, deciding whether or not to support adult use cannabis legalization, and the prohibitionist pitchforks are out. Protecting South Dakota kids is the best option the opposition has, and no, not the action of actually protecting South Dakota kids. I'm talking about the grassroots prohibitionist organization by the same damn name. And it seems PSDK's audience might be in need of a little PTSD treatment after attending one of their local outreach seminars in Aberdeen. The org recently shifted efforts into higher gear, presenting what they believe to be a panoply of negative results they believe legalization would usher in, as reported by the Aberdeen News. Leadership reps for PSDK Chairman James Kenyon, a retired highway patrolman, Ed Moses, and Christy Cricket Palmer That's her cue. They all presented last Thursday at Aberdeen Sacred Heart Catholic Church, and they did not disappoint. Moses bypassed salutations and got down to business right off the rip, drawing from the greatest hits catalog of debunked statistics. The first one being legalization increases teen consumption. All data proves otherwise, as reported from major cities and minor cities across the nation. The second one was legalization results in higher rates of cream vomiting than states have been reporting. Well, I think that he's talking actually about scromiting, which is connected to CHS, but he actually said cream vomiting, which is cream vomiting. And the last one is actually a new one that I haven't heard much elsewhere. Is cannabis causes negative effects on brain functioning and caused by long-term use, which is not reversible. There was there's no claims or any connections to that quote. He just threw that out there. So, big ups to Moses. Children are not protected with this, Moses said, also expressing concerns about medical marijuana, which was legalized some 2 years ago in South Dakota. It can cause a permanent drop in intelligence and interferes with the exchange of information between neurons. Following the presentation, Matthew Schweich, an IM27 campaign manager, told American News that while the passage of measures would make recreational cannabis legal, it's up to the states to create laws governing sales and to regulate the industry. Which is right, brother. Which is right, Matt. Local officials, they have the prohibitionist backs. The presentation came several weeks after two Sioux Falls officials insisted that cannabis legalization promotes crime and violence. Mayor Paul Tenakin referred to 3 myths from cannabis supporters of Measure 27. He disagreed that state prisons are full of people with cannabis convictions, contending that crime would not drop if marijuana was legal, but rather the opposite would occur. Tenakin noted that the black market is flourishing even in places where cannabis is legal. Why would you, as someone with a legal cannabis license, how can you compete against someone who says, I'm going to bypass the laws, I'm going to bypass the permits, I'm going to bypass all the other things and just grow illegally? I don't have to pay your taxes, the mayor went on. He also touched on the issue of revenue, insisting that communities are not seeing any benefit from cannabis sales. Any revenue that is realized is used to deal with the unintended consequences, treatment issues, crime issues, and that are all part of legalization. And we cannot have that here in any of the Dakotas. I couldn't stop laughing all the way through this entire article, and I can't wait for the videos to be posted from these people. They did not have the videos in the link, but I can't wait till those come out, and I will be posting them, because this kind of stuff, I mean, we have 5 states that are have a ballot initiatives that are either going to be decriminalized or going to be legalized this coming election, and you're going to have a lot of these people out. So you guys got to watch out for them. Got to know what the go-to talking points for all of them are. They have them listed on their websites. You guys got to fight back against this stuff. If you want free access, you want good access to medicine, if you want legalization in your state, if you want decriminalization in your state, you have to make sure you know who these organizations are and you're ready with facts to combat them, and also the evidence behind the scenes too. Because if you bring these to any city hall meeting, any church meeting or anything, watch the meeting devolve into chaos started by you, and it's going to be backed by facts. My name is Rico Lamitte. Love to hear the rest of you on this one.
So I have a few opinions that I want to go back to. One, it affecting people's intelligence. I know everyone on this stage is exceptionally smart, but Ed, the guy that looks like air traffic control, is actually
air
Mensa.
traffic control.
He's a certified genius, and he's been smoking weed as long as he's been an adult and into his teen years. And so I will say the Mensa guy in the center bottom of our screen proves that wrong. And then I actually just got a little data from the state of Colorado. I want to do a quick screen share to show you some data in regards to the money that the state of Colorado has been giving to the school system specifically. And I wanted to make sure that we're kind of talking about that in specific. Can someone give me a screen share? Hello?
Follow the money.
3 is 4. 3 is 4.
Yes.
Perfect. So if you look right here, it's actually really impressive because the school capital construction has gotten millions of dollars, 89, 40, 40. Early literacy programs, 5 million, 5 million, 5 million. School health professional grants, 11 million, 11 million. School bullying prevention grants, 211. Dropout program prevention, 222. So like, this isn't pennies. This is like real money going to real schools to get real education programs. So all that shit that he said is just complete bullshit. And yeah, fucking straight reefer madness.
And
Yeah.
my other concern is how people can be screaming "What about the children?" and actually host an event inside of a Catholic church.
Ooh,
Ooh,
I see what
for
you did there.
filth,
I see
Nicole,
what
for
you did
filth. That
there.
is
Was it a
true.
drag? Was it a drag queen show
I was
inside
raised
the Catholic Church?
I was raised Catholic. I can
Me too.
speak about the Catholic Church
Me too.
and
Yes.
with no shame and with full disclosure that every time somebody screams, "What about the children?" and they don't mention the Catholic Church, it just
Yeah, as somebody who was an
Oh.
altar boy, I went to Catholic school for 10 years. My mom was the choir director for the traditional like Latin mass. And I was an altar boy 3 to 4 days a week. So like, I like to tell people.
What
I
about the
went to Catholic-
children, Ed?
Did
I
it
like
leave
to
you
tell
altered?
people I went to. It left me altered. That's without question. But I like to say I went to Catholic school for 10 years. Therefore, I am now agnostic.
So are you saying you
Ooh.
got altered at the altar?
Yeah.
I
You got-
I
you did
walked
get
away
altered,
from religion.
boy.
I
I
walked
didn't
away
even
from
like.
altered
religion
at the
a
I
year
didn't
altar.
ago.
even catch that one. I have no Catholic affiliation, but like all three of the Catholics were triggered by that. And that is all three of the people that were raised around it were like, what? They were in a Catholic church. And like, I didn't even think about that, but fuck. Yeah. Yeah.
Every time somebody says, "What about the
what
children?"
about the children?
And going back
Yes.
to the whole like Mensa comment that Nicole made, I may or may not allegedly have been stoned when I was taking my Mensa entrance exam.
So that was all part of higher learning then, right, Ed?
It was
Yes.
Well, and
allegedly.
not to sound too Republican here, but what about the fucking parents? I mean, come on,
Ooh,
where are
I
the
like
family
that.
values, taking care of your kids, and making sure your kids aren't doing what they're not supposed to do? I'm so sick of us having to protect the children. Why don't you get some damn parents to actually parent their children? And
Well,
Hire a nanny.
and-
Hire a nanny.
And when
How
we
about
see
that?
like alcohol popsicles and alcohol like cotton candy flavor and all this shit, and
Or
then
the
they're like, "What about the
buzzballs.
children with weed?" And you're like, "What?"
Oh yeah, you're right, Rico. The buzz balls.
Shout out to the
Yes.
buzzballs.
hire a nanny?
Yeah.
How about a mother? What are you
Yes,
talking
a
about?
mother.
Lisa?
Thank you, Gretchen.
Hire a
Thank-
nanny. Hire a nanny.
Good Lord,
We're in
where are
Los
you
Angeles.
coming
We're in
from?
LA.
You can
Oh,
insure them. You
well-
can insure them. You can insure them.
If we're
Let's
gonna
not
hire a nanny,
discount-
that's a great segue into Jason Beck, who probably constantly for the rest of his life will need one.
Yes.
Jason Beck is the longest running retailer in the history of regulated cannabis and also the member of whatever political party might piss you off. And right now, I think it's Trumpism. So, Jason, what do you have for us today?
Whatever it is that pisses you off, I'm definitely a part of. How about that? Well, today my story is probably going to piss you off too, because apparently Biden's directive on marijuana faces, and I told you guys about this, a catch-22. Last week, President Biden directed the Department of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to expedite a review into whether cannabis should remain listed as a Schedule I substance, a category usually reserved for the most dangerous drugs such as heroin and ecstasy. But such an evolution, the first initiated by a U.S. president, is made all the more difficult due to the tight restrictions on research into marijuana, which some experts and government officials say have hindered the ability of scientists to study the drug. Yet those tight restrictions are in place precisely because marijuana is classified as a Schedule I drug, presenting a catch-22 for scientists. If something that we constantly communicate, we really need to figure out a way of dosing research with these substances, Nora Volkow, the director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse, told the Health 202. Her agency is a major funder of studies on drug use and addiction, and Valco said she's working to find pathways to ease research into Schedule I drugs. Either way, a final determination on how to classify marijuana could take years. The prospect is sure to ignite a flurry of lobbying and a renewed push in Congress to decriminalize the drug at a federal level. Keith Humphreys, a professor at Stanford University, tweeted this: Rescheduling means marijuana would be a medical product that the healthcare system would provide with some level of control appropriate to risk. Descheduling means marijuana would be a corporate product like tobacco, which it needs to be. We need to deschedule or bust. The Food and Drug Administration is charged with conducting an assessment considering 8 factors, such as marijuana's actual or relative potential for abuse, scientific evidence of pharmacologic effect, and the state of scientific knowledge about the drug. The agency then makes a recommendation. Such petitions can be launched by outside parties, HHS or others. The last such evaluation was completed in May of 2015 when the FDA recommended and the National Institute on Drug Abuse agreed that marijuana should maintain its status as a Schedule I drug. That designation means it has a high potential for abuse and no current accepted medical use. Then the Drug Enforcement Administration typically conducts its own independent review. If there's enough evidence that a change is warranted, then the rulemaking process may begin. Some advocates, such as Kevin Sabet, America's #1 prohibitionist, the president and CEO of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, have argued that marijuana should remain a Schedule I drug, but that studying the drug should be easier by creating a new category for research. Others have also proposed similar approaches to the research. Some challenges to researching Schedule I drugs: obtaining a research registration, getting protocol modifications approved by the DEA, and such as a change in the quantity of the drug requested, and sometimes acquiring separate registrations for each building a researcher works in at a single campus, according to a report from NIDA to Congress. HHS Secretary Javier Becerra said in a tweet reply to President Biden's initial tweet on the topic last week, he says, looking forward to working with Attorney General Garland to answer POTUS's call to action to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. A senior administration official speaking with the condition of anonymity due to the grounds rules set by the White House emphasized to reporters that Biden isn't pushing for descheduling. I want to repeat that again. Biden is not pushing for descheduling. And then they also go into any other particular, but rather for a review to assess how marijuana should be classified. But on the campaign trail, Biden told he supported moving marijuana to a lower schedule, such as classifying it as a Schedule II drug, CNN reported at the time. Here's Biden's taking marijuana at a Las Vegas town hall in November of 2019. He says, it is not irrational to do more scientific investigation to determine which we have not done scientifically enough, whether or not there are any things that relate to whether it's a gateway drug or not. Some experts don't anticipate that the administration would deschedule marijuana, but some top congressional Democrats are pushing for that to happen, which would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level and treat it the same as alcohol and tobacco. Under legislation from Senator Chuck Schumer from New York, Cory Booker from New Jersey, and Ron Wyden from Oregon, cannabis would be removed from the federal list of controlled substances, and states could craft their own laws without fear that Washington may intervene. Wyden said he welcomes a review by the HHS on the scheduling of marijuana, but emphasized that he believes marijuana should just be descheduled. And shout out to you, Senator Wyden, because that is exactly what needs to be done. In the final quote, he says, my God, the federal government has been lagging behind for years and years, Wyden told the Health 202. It's time to get beyond just playing a bit of catch-up ball and really laying out a framework like I've described that gives the states a lot of flexibility with a sensible federal framework. Well, I'll tell you what, from Biden's videos the other day, they say that he doesn't know if he wants it to 2 or 3 or whatever, but just wants it to go to a lower schedule, which would have dire consequences on the industry and force pretty much everyone out of business because no one's going to have the money to go through the FDA program because of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. Every product would be deemed illicit, but nonetheless, 2 or 3, what does it matter? The president says he has 2 words when he says 3 words, so we'll see. And this is Jason Beck reporting for High at 9 News.
So, is he still talking?
No, go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so we know that the research exists, and it might be coming out of Israel or some other reputable laboratory of research and research body. And my concern is that people are dying while they want to do research. It's just
It's very true. It's very
Nicole,
true.
they are not doing research. They are kicking the can down the road to another administration so they can get out there, pretend that they pardoned a few people, cared about pot, and move along to the next election.
I love how you said pretend to pardon. I love that.
I honestly look at in such a big way. And when we talk about descheduling, you know, this is like another prime example for the necessity of it. But like, I honestly think that if we get out of our own way and realize that, like, even though, you know, most people are medicating, the adult use, like ATF, sin, whatever, I think is going to expedite us into our ability to get what we want. And it sucks, but like when we're politicking, sometimes you have to take it in the fashion that they're willing to give it to you. And I'm learning this from Gretchen and Jason every day. And so I kind of look at it, you know, like I do understand, and I believe in the medical side of it more than I think that people are actually just trying to get high. I don't think most people consciously realize they're actually using it as medicine, but they just are. And if they weren't, they would probably be taking a Xanax or be, you know, on some sort of, you know, antidepressant or something like that. But when we get to the idea of getting through, like, the research is important, but just be like, fine, treat it like fucking alcohol. Shut the fuck up. We don't care anymore, because like I can still make my own brew at home and that's legal. Like it gives you the ability to have that, you know what I mean? And the access to it. And there will still be microbreweries and there will still be, you know, high-end product available. And there hopefully will still be people like you, Nicole, that believe in the medicinal side of it so much that you'll continue to push that no matter how fun cannabis ever becomes, right? Or how syntax or whatever the fuck they want to do to it. Like, fine, fine. If that's what you guys want to do, fine. But we'll go that route. But
I think the problem is they don't have anything to compare it to.
Right. Well, but that's what, if we put it next to alcohol, who cares?
Right.
Alcohol's fucking bad for you, and it makes you like fucking drive into walls and
that's
shit.
why-
And tobacco.
that's
And
why-
tobacco's garbage. Just throw
That's
it in
why
the
you can't-
bucket. I don't give a fuck. Throw it in the
but
bucket. If you guys want to be
that's
assholes,
why it should not go next to alcohol. Is
Right.
because of that reason.
But we don't
It's
have enough
because
research. And so
alcohol
if we
and
wait for the
tobacco and
research, you're looking at
firearms-
years, Nicole, to get that research. They're not going to give you medical without the research. They won't. They won't. And so
The
they'll keep
research
doing what
already
Gretchen's
exists.
saying and kick it. Not in America.
Not
And
in
they won't do
America.
it.
Not
They
in
won't
America,
do it without
Nicole.
American research, Nicole.
That's right.
They will not do it without
It's
American
very
research.
true. They don't care what
not.
Israel says. They don't
They
care what
will
any
not.
other
They don't
country
give a fuck
says.
about other countries.
America
It's America, bro.
only cares
they don't give a
about
fuck
America.
About nobody. They don't
We
give a
need
fuck
Twitter
about
to say
nobody.
it. If it's said on Twitter,
Play the
it will
song.
be believed. It will be believed if it's put on Twitter.
America doesn't care about
Kanye
anybody.
West
It's unfortunate,
and Elon
but
Musk.
it's like we're looking at the system at hand, not the system we want, and that's what I'm saying. Like,
The
you're not
invisible
wrong.
hand
You're not wrong, Nicole.
that
You're
strokes the
100%
beast.
right, but like the system at hand doesn't give a fuck.
How it works, that's not how it works.
So
It
that's
is
why I'm
what
saying,
it
like,
is.
I don't want it to be in there, but I know it's good for me and I know it's okay. And so if they want to bucket in there with that, and then we just have to double up on our efforts to make sure that people know better, then so be it. But then the access will be there and people will stop dying. That's my point. Like, the access is what we're trying to get to.
You're right, Nicole. You're right.
We just need to get to
You're
the
right.
fucking access so people can stop dying. And so I don't want to stop.
That's
I
right.
want to stop arguing about semantics. Just get me to the fucking weed so that people can get access to it.
That's right.
Get her to the weed.
Anybody else want to comment on that
sounds
one?
like it sounds like a
I'm
movie
emotional
title.
about it. This is important. Like,
Sounds like a
this-
movie title.
well,
Just get her
and
to the weed.
I semi disagree with you, Nicole West. I do think that Congress could move on a medical side. They do not want to move on adult use. If you turn this into a medical industry, they would do it.
Yes, but if it
But if
goes
you
into
turn
a
it into
medical industry,
it's gonna be
they're
garbage.
they're only going to go to like a Schedule 2, Schedule
I'm
3,
simply saying
whatever.
what the
Hold on,
government is willing to
hold
do
on,
for you
Gretchen.
today. And if
If
we're really making the argument that this is medicine for people, then we should be working to get people their medicine.
It's
Then we need to
I
get
would
the
consider it
research.
more like a nutraceutical, Gretchen, as opposed to an actual pharmaceutical drug that people would classify as a medicine and needs to be treated as that, as an over-the-counter type of drug. Any type
the
of
end of the-
reclassification will have dire consequences for the industry and will eliminate the craft market
Deschedule or
space, and
bust.
all
It's gonna
good
fuck us up
weed
if we
will be
reschedule.
gone.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, even
yeah.
descheduling is going to end up like even descheduling the way that we're talking about it, where it's being regarded as a nutraceutical. That still means the FDA is going to rear their ugly head. In
Like,
Uh,
No,
do
no,
you-
no,
do you
no, it
know
doesn't.
how
No, not as a
No,
nutraceutical
nutraceuticals
egg.
have their
No,
own
that's
world.
not the truth.
Like,
No.
do you guys know how hard how hard it is to find like a decent, affordable, real Adderall these days. You imagine that? Like if cannabis
Find a decent
or,
Adderall.
under medical provision
Did you say utter? Did you say utter medical provider?
You know what I'm saying?
Utter medical.
If you get this shit under medical provisions and everything,
Did you just say a decent Adderall, bro?
you know what I'm saying? Like
And I'm sorry,
get some
Ed is
actual real
correct.
drugs and shit.
If it's
You
a
know how hard it is?
nutraceutical, the FDA would be involved. They won't be involved to the standards and things that you would see in a medicine, but
That's
if-
not.
the
That's what I'm
FDA
saying. It's not gonna be the
They would
same.
have some labeling requirements, and that
It's
would
not
be
gonna
about
be the
that would
same.
be the crux of it, and that would be
simmer
it.
down. Just remember, words matter, Jason Beck. You can't say the FDA wouldn't be involved when it
The
absolutely
FDA wouldn't be involved. Whatever.
I said not in the
Hey,
same
put
way.
this.
I said
It's
they wouldn't be
not
involved in the same way.
even
They wouldn't
close to the
even-
type of
yeah.
involvement, Gretchen. Not even close. You couldn't even hold a mirror to it.
Do you know how
They would be involved.
expensive the real Jack Harrow will be if we're under medical?
I know
fucking
enough people that
oversight?
make fucking snake oil, nutraceutical, all kinds of motherfucking things. I've seen
Yes,
every pitch deck, and
exactly.
I'm just like,
All you gotta do is put this is not FDA.
this is not
approved.
FDA approved.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's some bullshit
It's
fucking
easy.
disclaimer on it.
Very
and it's-
easy.
FDA approval doesn't mean that the FDA is not involved. They're still going to regulate labeling. They're going to
They
regulate
regulate labeling and
distribution.
stuff,
They're
but
going to
there's
regulate
no
a lot
the
of stuff.
testing
Who
requirements
cares?
are like it's
They're not going to be worse
yeah.
than the DCC on labeling requirements.
No.
But Rico, we got to
The
go.
DCC
Keep it moving.
formed most of its labeling requirements from the FDA's
That's my
guidance.
whole.
I
That's
can
exactly
give
you.
the package.
You exactly certified my point, Ed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep it going.
certified.
Yeah.
As a felon, she's dedicated her life to paying the knowledge forward learned in a cold Colorado cell where she earned the nickname Jail Google because of her encyclopedic knowledge of dirtbag psychology. She never wants you to end up in the same place, so she became an agriculture, efficiency, and compliance expert working with those looking to sidestep becoming a statistic. Up next, you know who it is, the data bitch herself, Nicole West. What do you have for us on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Good morning. Good morning. This is actually my headline today is coming out of what is this? The New York Upstate. And this is something that we've been talking about a lot, the idea of insurance, but I don't know that we've really like dug into life insurance. And so I think this is an interesting conversation, but I want to kind of open up the conversation just in general about the difficulty and the exorbitant rates in regards to insurances as a whole when it comes to cannabis. But life insurance, when we think about it, and like, you know, heaven forbid anyone passes, but leaving that with your family to take on and take the burden is something that people often really are glad that there was a quality life insurance policy available when somebody does pass. So this is something that we have to listen to. And just, I'm going to start my conversation by saying deschedule or bust. So can I have life insurance policy while working in the cannabis industry? Well, professionals ask very probing questions to help you identify how well you're financially prepared. And for the majority of us, we have less life insurance than we're able to secure to protect the things that we should and care about most, the financial well-being of our families. For the majority of those who work in the cannabis sector, life insurance protection is currently not available. And getting a straight answer as to why has been not very forthcoming. The assumption has been shared and therefore anecdotal, and from years of attempting to secure life insurance for those who work in the cannabis space with no success. Life insurance carriers simply appear to be staying on the side of the federal legality of the cannabis sector. To complicate matters even further, it doesn't matter whether you own your own cannabis business or are an employee. Needing life insurance for personal or business reasons, or whatever organization is, whether it's plant touching or not. There has been just too many declinations of coverage to assume anything else. To dig a little deeper, life insurance is not only used as a personal and financial vehicle to take care of one's family, it's also a common financial backstop for businesses with partnerships, buying and selling agreements, key people within an organization, and contractual obligations. While solutions within the disability insurance world exist to satisfy many of these needs, losing life insurance as a main vehicle adds complications to the already challenging banking, lending, and other sections within the cannabis industry. Well, to end this story, there is a silver lining. If you already have life insurance policy, it can only be taken away from you or canceled for non-payment. So much like your light bill, guys, make sure you make that payment. Pay your premium on time and you will not forfeit any existing policy. And if you've not yet secured life insurance and you do work in the cannabis industry, Well, what are you waiting for? The worst thing that they can do is deny you. Get in your place, and to get a license in the sector and joining a cannabis organization, trying to get federal legalization is going to be one of the most important things that we can do to get it so that this is no longer a problem. This is something that I'm super interested to hear what everybody on the stage, or if there's anybody in the audience. I do know that there are some insurance companies that are getting a lot more success than others. And I know certain underwriters in certain states are having a lot more success than others. California, I know there are some companies that are able to find life insurance. When I hear things like this from professionals in the life insurance industry, I get a little concerned, because much like the credit card processing world, when we first kind of started taking and accepting things, we were being told by the professionals in the credit card processing world that this was all legit. And you turn around and you're watching person after person after person going to prison because the way that they're working the system of ACHs and transactions is actually not compliant. But it not being something that we specialize in, we're leaning on these professionals to tell us the what, whens, and whys of credit card processing. I'm worried about the same thing with insurance, except I know insurance fraud is a much bigger deal. And so my concern is, how are people getting some of these policies? If it is so hard, are they actually obtaining them legitimately? And if so, how can we make sure that people get access to that? And, are we going to be able to do that without descheduling? I don't think so. So super excited to hear what everyone on the stage has to say. And I'm Nicole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
So I am lucky that I work in the ancillary part of the industry. As an ancillary, I can tell you that I have an employee-sponsored, not only an employer-sponsored 401k, but an employer-sponsored life insurance policy. And I was offered the option to throw even more coverage on top of that life insurance policy, up to 6 figures, without having to do any sort of medical exam whatsoever. And it's, again, offered by my employer. So that insurance company knows what the heck's going on. I did also have insurance when I worked plant touching, but that was a policy that I had to buy on my own. And I had to actually work with a broker who helped me bounce around from, I think I worked with like 14 or 15 different insurance companies to finally get through. But they literally had to we had to find an insurance provider that didn't ask what I did for work. And I had to only go up to a certain amount. I was only covered up to, I think, $150,000. I had to get a medical exam I think I was 26 at the time, and I had to get a medical exam. I had my own policy. It was a VUL policy. I wrote it on my own. But it was not cheap. And
it wasn't cheap, and they didn't ask you what you did.
Yeah.
I've run company policies for every single company that I've ever run in the past 10 years. And I've attempted to get life insurance for our people, and they've never approved us for it. So I've applied in Colorado, Oregon, California, and Washington, and been denied in every state.
My mom bought me a life insurance policy a number of years ago. I think it was probably like under the Clinton administration, maybe Bush, but probably Clinton.
You still have it?
I still have it.
Hell yeah.
Still to this day. Never, had touched it, used it, done anything with it other. They'd send me a lot of shit in the mail. But I do remember the smoking question. And they asked if you smoked. And granted, my mom knew that I smoked weed at that time, wasn't happy about it, wasn't good with it, didn't condone it at all whatsoever, was not cool with it at all. And so I asked him, I was like, I don't smoke cigarettes. He was like, cool, well, that's it. That's all we need to know for that, because, everything else is illegal. And I was like, fucking get it, bro. Get it, insurance agent.
My my insurance application, not only for the policy the VUL that I had on my own, but also the current policy I have now, did ask, do you consume tobacco products? And I was like, I don't.
Yes.
I've noticed that they have changed, and it does say tobacco rather than do you smoke, which I appreciate.
I have a question for cannabis users. If you are a blunt smoker, do you still say that you consume tobacco?
Ooh.
When I got my life insurance policy, I worked for RJ Reynolds. I worked for Camel Cigarettes when I got my life insurance policy. And so somehow they were able to get me a policy.
Wow.
It's like, hey, we sell death, but here's
a death policy.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go to commercial. Thank you so much for that story, Nicole. Welcome to Los Ashes, the headiest city in America. Los Ashes is a 10-pound smokable city curated and created by the world-renowned roller Weavers. In the past, Weavers has amazed cannabis lovers with his roll jobs, such as a 5-pound rocket launcher and a 10-pound Darth Vader. But now Weavers is rolling an entire city. Have your business featured in Los Ashes with a ton of different sponsorship opportunities available. Contact Weavers at smokablecity.com for more information.
The thoughts and opinions and general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in any country, area, territory, or its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply or constitute any endorsement by us, by the expression of any opinion whatsoever, and of any speaker or anyone on stage. If you're an easily offended person, this show's probably not for you. And also, smoke more weed.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you like to get high at 9 for 10% off your full order.
Well, she's the feisty, redheaded conservative founder of Panoptic Strategies, a Washington insider with Mayflower roots that never backs down from a verbal challenge by pot-loving libs across the aisle. Gretchen Gailey, what do you have for us today?
Good afternoon. My headline is coming from Marijuana Moment. And I just felt so sad. We've been talking about pardons so much. We've been leaving out good old safe banking. So my headline is Booker is very hopeful Congress will pass marijuana reforms in lame duck session following Biden pardons. Senator Cory Booker cheered President Joe Biden's move to issue federal marijuana pardons in a new interview, but he says there's more that we can do to address the drug war, and he's very hopeful that additional reform can be enacted before the end of this Congress. The senator, who is sponsoring a federal legalization bill with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden, spoke about the need to more comprehensively address cannabis policy during an interview with NPR on Friday. He called Biden's pardon proclamation and directive for an administrative marijuana scheduling review a significant step from the White House. However, he made the case that we still have longer to go to right the wrongs of prohibition by facilitating expungements, for example. Booker said that he is optimistic that legalization could be enacted, even though the general consensus is that his wide-ranging legislation doesn't have enough bipartisan support to meet the 60-vote threshold needed to clear the Senate. He pointed out that voters in red and blue states alike have approved ending prohibition at the ballot. He said, I think there's enough space right now, and there are already conversations and dialogue going on about some kind of bipartisan movement, because we see problems within the banking industry. And a lot of people who are winning licenses can't get access to loans and more. So there's a lot of folks who understand that we have to act on the federal level to do more than the president's done. And I'm hopeful that this Congress, actually in the lame duck after the midterms, I'm very hopeful we can get something done. The senator seemed to be alluding to a yet-to-be-introduced package of modest marijuana reform proposals that's expected to address marijuana banking issues. He said that the bill will likely be introduced after the midterm elections. Schumer separately spoke about marijuana banking issues at a recent White House event, reiterating that he was working on the problem, according to a House sponsor. The conversation between Schumer and Representative Ed Perlmutter happened at an event on inflation reduction and happened to coincide with the National Cannabis Industry Association lobby days, with over 100 marijuana business leaders on Capitol Hill to push for the passage of the Safe Banking Act. Perlmutter said at an NCIA-organized press conference that he's increasingly tempted to go to the nuclear option in the House Rules Committee of holding up separate legislation like the National Defense Authorization Act in order to get the marijuana banking measure passed. A poll released on Friday found that a majority of Americans are in favor of Biden's pardon proclamation, and most also want to see their own governors follow suit with state-level cannabis relief. Well, I'm sure many people are very happy about this. They are also need to understand that governors aren't going to pardon anybody, like I clearly pointed out to Jason Beck yesterday. But it will be nice to see that safe banking does look like it is on par for coming for the lame duck session. I do think it will pass. I'm hearing from folks around the Hill that there will be more to come from this administration before the end of the year. And I can only think that Safe Banking Plus has to be it. because we know Biden's not going to do anything else. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
You are very right about part of your story, Gretchen, not about proving me wrong, but as far as I 100% agree with you that safe banking plus is going to pass during the lame duck session. I've been told by all of my friends in DC for a number of weeks that is slated to go down. And so that is what I am going to be expecting as well.
Okay, I need to ask because I fucking hate politics. So this is the proof. What is exactly a lame duck session?
Yeah,
lame
real
duck
quick,
session is from the election. So we're about to have an election in November and people are going to know who the candidates are. But those candidates don't get sworn in until January to actually start doing the work for the American people. So the lame duck session is the time from the vote to when people are sworn in, because then those officers, if they are not elected again or don't win re-election or
it doesn't
out,
matter.
Exactly.
Yes, it
Your vote
applies
don't
more
count.
to the members who are going
Exactly.
out, not the
It's a
people coming
free-for-all.
in.
It's a free-for-all. They
It's
can
like
do whatever they want.
It's like fucking senior ditch
Armageddon.
day in high school.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know we're not going to affect much change here on this new show, but I do want to say, I feel like Ducks.
That's not true. Don't say that.
Ducks got the short end of the stick on this. Like, ducks are cool. Can we go with like lame magpie season or something? I don't know. Let's think of some annoying bird.
Aw.
I like ducks.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, lame ducks.
Either way,
Lame ducks
safe
are easier to
fun.
shoot.
Oh
That's
my
true.
God.
Oh my God, Jason.
Hey, Gretchen, do you think that that this has a chance in hell in passing?
The Safe
Yes.
Banking Plus?
100%.
Yeah.
She said yes. She
Yes.
says
Yeah.
yes.
I do.
Without a doubt.
I absolutely do.
And I totally agree with Gretchen.
I think that we will see some reforms that were pushed by the CRCC. I don't think we're going to see a ton of major, if you want to call them social equity provisions. If you keep the arguments into more of the financial discussion, then it won't blow it up. I think you're going to see expungements coming from the HOPE Act, pushing on the state level, because then Congress doesn't have to be the ones actually pushing for them.
So okay. Rico had to go to the doctor to get an MRI for his lame foot, but he is missing his opportunity to
Achilles
like
tendon.
scream. I feel like I have to. I feel like I have.
Safe
It's like
banking already.
I'm gonna do it for Rico. Fuck safe banking.
Yeah, and you see what happens when you say fuck safe banking. You end up tripping over CRT and you pull your Achilles tendon. Have to go have an MRI.
I don't think that's what it is.
It's 100%. It's 100% what happened. It's 100% what happened. But nonetheless, coming up next, she's a cannabis patient, a plant medicine advocate, also the founder of Purple Plant Magic, national brand ambassador for Black Buddha Cannabis, and the encyclopedia on Power 88 in Las Vegas, Nevada, every Wednesday morning. It is none other than the Nicole Buffon.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jason, and good morning to everyone here on the West Coast. Good afternoon to all of my East Coast folks. So today my story is coming out of South Africa. South Africa has a bill up that is getting ready to pass, hopefully. The bill has been on the chopping block since 2020. So that just gives you an idea of how much it's had to go through. Of course, with their government shutting down, the country shutting down during 2020, it kind of slowed things up, but we're 2 years later. But this came out on Sunday. Well, South Africa's cannabis bill expunged the criminal records for possession. It boggles my mind when I read headlines like this and know that there are countries that are considering any form of legalization and not considering letting people out of prison or just expunging people's records so that they're able to participate in society. So reading from the article, Lester Kewitt speaks to cannabis legal expert Shad Vayesh about whether or not the cannabis for private usage bill would expunge the criminal records for people charged with the possession of small quantities of cannabis. After US President Joe Biden pardoned thousands of Americans charged for small quantities of possession on a federal level. With South Africa currently considering a cannabis for private usage bill, questions have arisen as to whether or not this expunged the criminal records for people charged for small quantities of cannabis possession in the country. This has seen some policy discussion since the cannabis for private purposes bill was proposed in 2020. The bill contemplates the expungement of criminal records for cannabis crimes for Section 4 of the Drugs and Drugs Trafficking Act, which relates to the use and possession of cannabis. It also deals with the descheduling of cannabis from the drug bank. That's what they call their filing. From a broader perspective, the Cannabis for Private Purposes bill deals with also the descheduling of cannabis from the drug bank by preferring that cannabis be removed from Part 3 of Schedule 2, which there it's listed as an undesirable dependence-producing substance. That's what they call it. An undesirable dependence-producing substance. That's what categorizes it as a Schedule 3 versus a Schedule 2. So in a way, we are further down the line than the Americans, but as the bill is still a bill, these efforts to reform are yet to be confirmed in the form of an act. And this is from the cannabis legal expert that they interviewed on this subject matter. So I did a little bit of background to understand that South Africa's bill is working its way through their Congress or Parliament. And it would be to deschedule, but also to allow people to utilize the plant without criminalization. So a decriminalizing of sorts of being able to use the plant. That's what this bill would propose. So I'm just interested in hearing from my other correspondents what they think about this. I feel like South Africa should be thinking about some type of medical reform first, to get it through, passed, and then just allowing people to grow or have access to it. I think that they should go down the medical route, but we're not there yet. So this is Nicole Buffon reporting for High at 9 News. Love to hear what you all think.
So,
Nicole. Oh, go ahead, Nicole. Go ahead.
I was just out in South Africa in March, and I participated in the first South African Cannabis Cup. And it wasn't through High Times, it was another organization. And I was a part of a Canna Expo, which was really cool. And I got to meet Myrtle Clark, who is one of the people that was the founders of a group called the Daga couple. And Daga is what they call cannabis in South Africa. And they were pushing really heavy for medical. And they were growing plants, and they had they called it the Jazz Farm. It's in South Africa, and it was the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. But the South African police came into their home and murdered Julian, who was the husband, and in the house. And this is now the Daga couple, or DC, is now a lobbyist organization because of what happened to this couple and how they were just peacefully helping people get access to medicine. And I was talking to my friends there about the different suburbs and boroughs as you go through South Africa. And like during COVID, for instance, if you're not a part of a certain organization or Afrikaans, which is essentially the fucking white people, your ability to get around in South Africa during any sort of like hold or anything like that is so fucking limited that the last 2 years have they literally stopped doing everything, to the point they stopped selling alcohol. They stopped selling. There was an illegal alcohol and tobacco market during COVID, and they were locking people into their homes. And so there was people trapping tobacco and alcohol to get things around. And so people are just terrified. People are fucking terrified. And when I talk to people, they were teaching me about a thing called tiring. And every person in the room that I had seen had witnessed this happen. And it's where they throw a fucking tire on your body and cover you in kerosene and light you on fire in public. And the military does this to people. The fucking military are doing this to people, and publicly. And I was at a facility, and I watched somebody get physically assaulted by their boss at work, and there was nothing. There's no law against it. So the fear in South Africa, I don't know that I don't know that I would even be willing to speak up.
Wow. Thank you for that insight, Nicole. Oh my goodness.
I will say this. I disagree with you, Nicole, though, in the sense, Nicole Buffon, in the sense that I am for the full descheduling of it. I let them figure out the medical part later, get the descheduling done now for what people of South Africa need. And I really want to know, this is burning serious question. What has Elon Musk weighed in on this issue?
No,
Okay,
I think
I'm sorry. I have to disagree with you, Jason Beck. I think once you let the horse out of the barn, it's an issue. And we're seeing that in this country with no standards, no regulations. I mean, you can't just legalize it and then try and reel it back in and look at medical later.
Yep.
You need
Yeah,
to
you
start.
can. Yeah, because once it's legal, then you can start doing all the research and all
Yeah,
the
that's just in the US.
quantified
That
studies
ain't
and
South
all of that.
America or South Africa.
But the way that
Right.
they legalized it so fucking janky. And like I went to a couple of the like cannabis clubs while I was there. And like the way that they go about it is it's very interesting. It's similar, it feels similar to Amsterdam in like the restaurant tea coffee house thing that has like a hidden little weed, but then there's a couple places that are way more like out front about it, but they do battle and deal with some legal repercussions fairly regularly, and one of those groups is affiliated with the Daga couple or the DC, and yeah, it's been crazy for them over there and scary. Like I have a friend that has a smoke lounge in a place called Bloemfontein. It's called the Humble Smoker. And like I'm watching him build and build and build. And it's this tiny little town. And he's like, I'm in a weird place because I don't sell it. People can just bring it, and it's a private residence. It's a private location. So you're allowed to have weed. So they have to have like a safe place to be to consume. Like the idea of a consumption lounge is so fucking important in South Africa, because if you're sharing space because you know limited income with a bunch of people, homes, babies, all this, where are you going to consume? You live in a tiny little apartment building, right? Like you have to go to a place because public is where it's a problem. You have to be in a private space. And so the idea of a consumption lounge, it's important here, but holy shit, is it important in South Africa?
Wow, thank you for that insight. Oh my goodness, Nicole. I had no idea.
It was a fun trip. The penguins
Yeah,
were cool, but I learned a lot about weed.
I can't wait to get to South Africa. I hope to get to Zambia before within the next year, within the next 12 months. And South Africa is definitely on my list. And so I'm hoping to learn more about how we can support, and we'll talk on offline. I want to know how we can support the DC.
Come with me. Come with me next year for the cup. It's in March. Come with me.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Let's do it.
South
boy.
Africa.
Excursion.
Yes. Let's do it. I'm there.
We got to hop.
Yes.
We got to hop.
All right. Well, we are off to our very last. You know what? This is very appropriate for Ed to land the plane for us. Our resident tech guy and voice of the High at 9 intro. Ed is our regulated cannabis industry veteran with 13 years of experience across all verticals. He currently works for Blaze as a product manager overseeing the retail software products. Ed, what do you have for us today?
Hey, y'all. I loved all the stories today, but I kind of, and honestly, the past couple of days with everything that happened with Biden and his series of tweets. But I want to bring everybody back to reality for a quick minute with my story. Nicole was talking about how South Africa is moving forward. We talked recently this past few days on the High at 9 about how the U.S. is moving forward in a big way. But let's talk about our friends over in the UK. They're unfortunately looking at moving backwards. So we actually, the headline of my article today is that the UK government has actually issued an update amid comments suggesting tightening laws on cannabis. So specifically, and a response from the number 10 saying that there are no plans to change those classifications. But to dive in, Britain, or the UK's Home Secretary, believes that cannabis has been effectively legalized as it has been, quote, not policed properly, according to a Home Office source. The source also said that Suella Braverman, who is the Prime Minister, would be receptive to calls, that Suella Braverman, the Prime Minister now, would be receptive to calls for the drug to be upgraded from a Class B to a Class A. So that's like the equivalent of going from a Schedule 2 to a Schedule 1 drug here in the U.S. However, Liz Truss, who comes from comes from the number 10 office, says that they have no plans to classify it as a Class A drug, which is a great thing to hear from the Prime Minister's office instead of the Home Secretary's office. The Prime Minister also said that our priority is cracking down on illegal drugs and this crime that they drive. We've launched a drug strategy backed by record investment to deliver a whole system approach to tackling supply and demand. The news agency has been told it's a very big stretch of the imagination to suggest that the Home Secretary herself wants to change its classification to put it on par with substances such as cocaine, ecstasy, and heroin. The Times reported that Ms. Braverman has told allies she is on the same side as a group of Tory police and crime commissioners who have called for the drug to be reclassified to a higher level. The commissioners are said to have made the case for reevaluating penalties based on new health data that at the Conservative Party conference in Birmingham. Go figure. In remarks cited by the Times and the BBC, David Sidgwick of the Dorset PCC said, we're seeing it because it's a gateway drug. God, going back to that old school reefer madness mentality. Gotta love it. Asked about the reports, the Home Secretary wants to upgrade the drug to a Class A. They said that is a very big stretch of the imagination. Her position on this is that effectively cannabis has been legalized by not being policed properly. We need to focus attention on changing that. Reclassifying cannabis from Class B to Class A would boost the maximum penalty for possession from 5 years to 7 years in prison. This is, again, for simple possession. And then 14 years to a life sentence for supply and production. I wasn't able to find anything about intent to sell in the UK, so I don't know where that stands. But a Home Office spokesperson closed out the article by saying, cannabis is a controlled drug on the basis of clear medical and scientific evidence of its harms. It is currently a Class B drug, but its classification is subject to review. So, really stark difference to what's been going on here in the U.S. in the past week. Stark difference to what Nicole brought up is going on in South Africa. It's just mind-blowing. The UK is a huge cannabis market. They have a medical market. There are thousands and thousands of people in their legitimate medical market, and millions in some surveys that I've read that claim that they purchase cannabis from the illicit market for medical use. So to hear the UK saying that they're going to try and tighten the screws even harder on this people is just the most back-asswards thing I've heard recently, and I wanted to see what my fellow correspondents had to say. But thank you all for your time. My name's Ed Schwartz, and I'm reporting for High at 9 News.
So I looked this lady up because I was like, who the fuck is this lady? The Sula Braverman.
Who is this bitch?
Bro, there's an article that was 3 weeks ago that says, think Patty Patel was bad? Sula Braverman wants to make claiming asylum nearly impossible. That's the headline. I'm like, oh shit, this bitch is crazy.
Oh yeah. What party is she with?
Probably the conservative one.
You'd be surprised.
Does anyone know much about the UK's history of drug usage? Why are they so staunchly opposed?
Well, so they do have a very regulated program out there.
Conservative
in the UK.
Party. Ed was right.
All right, whatever.
I mean, the Queen has admitted to be using cannabis for her menstrual and opioids. Okay.
Are you serious? Did she
did not
really
know
admit that?
Yeah.
Where did this happen?
It was put on records. The Queen saying that she used cannabis in her early years for the pain, to manage pain.
Get out of here.
For some reason, I have this image of her just like sitting and smoking like a 2-foot-long peace pipe with some opium in an opium den now.
Well, no,
God save the Queen. But
well, I mean, when she was, I mean, like she was like full on like a bit auto mechanic and like race car driver at the same time too, and I could just imagine her like just driving the whip, racing down the borough with a joint in her hand.
She was a bad bitch. Like, there is no denying that.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever see her?
Yeah, this lady's a big build a wall kind of bitch for sure. She's trying to stop the people from being able to migrate from the English Channel. This lady's fucking crazy. I hope that they realize that and then just kind of move along.
The UK is very interesting because you're on basically closed circuit TV the whole time that you're out there on the freeways, everything. They have like these sensors that measure how fast you're going, and if you're going faster than the speed limit, they just automatically mail you a ticket. You don't even get pulled over; they just mail you a ticket.
And also,
there you go.
Let's not forget that the UK, you are guilty until proven innocent, which is the most fucked up thing I have. Well, it's just like tax
court in America is the same thing. In tax court,
but this is the entire criminal law system. The entire criminal law system.
But they don't. They only have like they only have like 2,500 guns or 3,500 guns in the entire country.
Yeah, so it'll just be that much easier for China to roll them over.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't take my guns.
All right, Gretchen, the one little thing, a blurb, it says basically UK has been having some sort of like opium issue since the 1850s and alcohol, and the royal party at some point had kind of said it's all the same. And so I think just kind of a reefer madness vibe. They've been fighting junkie kind of behavior for a long time, and now it's just, and now the queen's gone, so who knows what they're going to think next.
Yeah, don't forget the cocaine and ecstasy epidemic
That's
out
the
there
new,
was
yeah,
pretty
that's the
fucking
new
big,
one. Yeah,
largely because of the
UK, like-
underground electronic music scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Should be
Fabric.
Oh yeah,
popping
the
out
UK
there.
is like the underground music scene capital.
But the
Yeah.
UK has
People
an
be candy flipping all
amazing,
day.
you know, not just an amazing medical market, but unfortunately they import all their weed from Canada, so it's all
Oh
booze.
fuck.
But
Woo.
there
Whoa,
is a very, very extensive trap market.
I was going to
in
say,
the
don't
UK.
forget about the duffel bag boys.
Extensive,
All right. What a
trap
great
market
way to
in the
end our
UK.
show. There is an extensive trap market in the UK.
Yes.
So thank you
Lots of
all for
duffel
getting
bag
high
boys.
at 9 with us every Monday through Friday, and high noon on the East Coast, and whatever the fuck time it is in the UK right now. Big shout out to the audience and supporters, and to the haters for still thinking about us. Huge thank you to True Classic and Weavers and LAXCC for helping us keep the lights on. And thank you to the correspondents for being amazing, and to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do this. Thank you to 3 is 4 and everyone on the back end helping us create a space in this cannabis miniverse, and to everyone for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us.
Nicole at 6 p.m. in London.
Sick. Happy 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Yorkshire
Good
puddings.
evening. Run that shit.
Bye.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.